how are we today? I am so excited to film this video. This is gonna be my first reading wrap up, well, my first book video in general. So I'm really excited. I figure I just keep putting it off and I'm like, I just need to do it. What's the worst that can happen, right? So I'm so glad you're here if you found me. I do have football playing behind the camera, so bear with me if I'm constantly looking behind you. My cute little 'Tis the Season. This was from, I'm not sure if she has an online shop, but it's from a brand called Simply Midwestern. I live in Wisconsin, so she has a shop near me. I don't know if she does Etsy or anything, but if you live in the Wisconsin, definitely worth looking her up because she makes the cutest stickers, graphics. She does hats, all kinds of really cute stuff. I've got my Diet Coke, so I am hydrated, fueled. All right, so let's just jump straight into it. In November, I read 9 books. I will put the graphics on the screen as well. For tracking, I use Bookmory. I'll put all my links down below as well. I think some of them aren't any kind of referrals, but just so that you can easily find the apps I use. Bookmory is my favorite because you get this calendar view. And I really like that this shows, it has all your little star ratings. It shows what you read every single day, which I don't know, I think that's really fun. I've always loved statistics, so it's really fun for me. But then I also use Storygraph and I use Fable. Fable I more so use for the book clubs. I don't use their tracking quite as much. I do, but I don't like their graphics and their end of month statistics as much. But then I use Storygraph. Storygraph has really great end of month graphics, and I'll pop that one up as well. So that one you can see I did 9 books for the month and then 4,366 pages. And then my average rating was 4.17. So I'm still very early in my reading journey. I just started reading earlier this year in April, and I started with A Court of Thorns and Roses and that series. And that's really what got me back into reading. I'm the stereotypical, haven't read since high school. It's been 10 years. And then picked up ACOTAR because everyone's talking about it. And now I can't stop reading. So 9 books this month was a pretty good month for me. I also worked a lot. It was Thanksgiving and I work in food service as well as retail. I have 2 jobs. So super busy time. The next month will be super busy too. So I don't anticipate getting a lot done there either. More than 9 or 10 books. That's the max when I'm super busy. Okay, so the only, not issue, but the only thing is all of these books except for one I read on the Kindle app, just on my phone, because this is transportable and you know what I mean? I can read at work, I can read before I go into work, so this has just been the easiest for me. I do have a physical TBR that I should probably, pay attention to at some point, but I also on Black Friday sales just bought the new Kindle Color Soft, so I didn't have a Kindle device before this. And I'm so excited for it to come. Asked me 3 months ago and I was not against Kindle, but I just kind of didn't see the point of it. I was but I can read on my phone. It's, you know what I mean? I don't need a Kindle. I don't need a device specifically for reading. We'll see how I feel about that after it comes because I feel I'm going to love it. I feel it's gonna be great that I don't get notifications while I'm reading. I also, my phone battery dies so much faster. It almost always is dying by the time I get home at night, which I hate. I don't like to be with my phone not charged, you know what I mean? And yes, I could just charge it in the car, but still, I don't need to be putting that strain on my sweet little device. So my Kindle should be here next week. I'm very excited. But for this month, almost all of my reads were on Kindle. There was only one that wasn't. So first book that I read for this month was Phantasma, and I'll pop the cover up. But I had heard so many people talking about this book, And I think I saw Sarah Caroli, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sarah Caroli was reading it like early in October. And she was like, this is such a good like spooky season book. And it was on my October TBR and I wanted to read it the week of Halloween and I just did not get around to it. So I started reading it, I think on Halloween, and then didn't finish it until November. But it only took me 2 or 3 days to read. Like it didn't take a long time. I wasn't as in love with it as everybody else seems to be. Okay, so if you haven't heard of Phantasma yet, it basically is this girl, she goes into this competition to try to save her sister because she thinks her sister went into the competition. And like, I don't know, their mom had just died and she like kind of is like taking on her mom's business. Yeah, and so this competition only comes about once a year. I don't even know if it's once a year, but like every so often. And it's 9 days and like it's pretty deadly. But I don't know, it just like, it didn't creep me out that much. Like there were lots of like, you have the trials and everything. It was kind of giving like a young adult Saul. Have you ever seen the Saul movies? He has like messed up challenges for them to go through to survive. And that's kind of like what it was, but more mild. You know what I mean? Like there's obviously still death, but I don't know. It just didn't, I know it was supposed to be really high stakes, but I just didn't care about her that much. I didn't, and I did think that like there's a phantom, the main male character is a phantom in this thing, and he was interesting. The twist at the end was awesome. But yeah, I just didn't care about the characters that much. I think too, this was my first time ever reading anything with like phantoms or ghosts. And while I've read things with like fae or like different creatures, you know what I mean? I've never read anything with phantoms or ghosts. And so like the spicy scenes, because it is spicy, just, I don't know, they just didn't do it for me. I was just kind of weirded out. I was like, okay, so he goes from like being able to walk through walls and like being transparent, you know what I mean, to like now he's full-fledged like tangible body. I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. But so many people liked it and I really wanted to like it. I'll read the sequel when it comes out. I kind of just, if I start a series, I can't like, it's hard for me to not read the next ones, even if I didn't like the first ones, because then I just feel invested. Hopefully this changes eventually, but I'll read. I think it's called Enchantra, Enchantra, you know? I think it's called Enchantra. Yeah, I'll read it. It's about her sister, and I don't know what's going to happen there, because I would assume they're not going to go back into this. Actually, I don't even know if Phantasma, which is the competition, the like haunted house kind of thing, I don't even know if that exists anymore. So I don't know if that's what's gonna happen. But anyway, her sister's gonna have her own book, so maybe I'll like her sister more. It's not that I didn't like her, I really don't remember anything about her other than her like relationship with the phantom. I don't remember his name. And like the fact that their mom passed and they like are trying to save their manor and their like business that their mom's built for them. That's all I remember. My rating on that, I did rate it 4 stars. I feel like going into the new year, I need to come up with a real rating scale. Because I need to be a little bit more critical with my ratings. But I did give it a 4 star. 4 star for me is kind of like, yeah, I would recommend it. Like if someone was like interested in reading it, I would be like, yeah, you should read it. But it like might not be my favorite. Like I don't necessarily need to have like a physical copy of it, or like I'm not going to think about it a ton after this. Anything like between a 4 and 5 star is pretty much like I really liked it. I would like personally go out of my way to recommend it to people. And then anything under a 4 star is like I would only recommend it if I know that person would like it, and I would never read it again. So I just kind of forget there's 1s and 2s. I feel like that's harsh. I just feel like that's harsh. It hurts my soul to like rate something a 1 or a 2. Cause it's like, I read it, didn't I? I mean, anyway, we gotta move on. Oh, I do have this one. Pause. Okay, the next book, I have 2 of my books that I read this month in physical copies. But next was the Bromance book club. So, this is by Lyssa K. Adams. And I'd never heard of this before. I found it I was on Pango Books, which it's kind of like Poshmark for books, if you haven't heard of it. I'll link that down below as well. But I was on Pango Books, and I don't even remember what I purchased with this, but I was purchasing from a shop, and you had to spend so much to get free shipping with them. And so I just added it. It sounded interesting. So it says, first rule of book club, you don't talk about book club. It's about a professional baseball player, and it's like a second chance romance, or is it a second chance romance? It's like a straining marriage, okay? And so like they're trying to make their marriage work. And so he joins this book club, this male book club, where they read romance novels. And literally the whole goal, like this book club was founded to try to save marriages and like to woo their girlfriends and whatnot, and just to be like better partners. So I thought the concept sounded really, really good. I don't remember much about this either. I read it in like 5-6 hours. I think I read it on a Sunday, like while I was watching football, and I just read it during commercials and like half times. And I mean, it was good. Like I read it. It was quick and easy to read. There were definitely like some laugh out loud books. There were some like laugh out loud parts where I was like, oh, this is funny. But overall, maybe too, I don't love like straining marriage, because is it a second chance romance? It's not really, but it's like a marriage on the rocks, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily love books with that. I've only read one other one, and it was also in like an interconnected standalone series, and it was my least favorite in the series. Like there were 7 books, and that was hands down my least favorite, and like I didn't even want to finish it while I was reading it. So this was better than that, but I don't remember much about them. I am currently reading the second one in the series, which is Undercover Bromance, and I literally just started. I think I'm on page 3. But yeah, I wrote on my Bookmory and like my notes, I really liked the premise of the book, but they weren't my favorite characters ever, side characters included. Like nobody really stood out to me. Like the one that stood out to me is there's this like Russian guy that is with them, and the whole shtick with him is like he has IBS basically. Like he's like lactose intolerant and always has to go to the bathroom. And like the whole book they're like, oh, don't let him in your bathroom, you'll regret it. Like, why is that what stood out to me in a romance novel? So I don't really know why I'm reading the rest of the series, but I'm going to. Maybe it gets better. This is like medium spice. I mean, it does have like explicit scenes, but there's not much. And I think too that if you're someone that doesn't like spice just for spice, you'll like this because the spice is for the plot. You know what I mean? It's like because they're building their relationship and they're like gaining trust back in each other, and so it's more like meaningful. I don't necessarily like spice just for spice, but I do like a spicy book. So I don't know, the spice, like I don't remember much about it. I know it was good spice when like I remember specific scenes afterwards. So yeah, it was just mid, which, let's go to my rating. 4 stars. Once again, I'm sitting here and I have really like nothing great to say about this book, but I rated it 4 stars. So I will definitely work on a rating scale. If you guys have any suggestions, or you have a rating scale that you use or kind of base your ratings off of, let me know. I would love to know. I need some help, clearly, because this was not a 4-star read for me. Like, objectively, after the fact, not a 4-star read. Alright, next, what do we have? So, okay, yeah, so right after I finished Bromance Book Club, I started The Midnight Library. I have this sweet, sweet lady that, she's one of like my regular customers at my full-time job. And I think she used to be a librarian or a teacher, but she always comes in and gives me book recommendations. And she likes she likes like historical fiction. She likes really like smart books. Okay. I read a lot of romantasy. I read a lot of romance. I read a lot of smut. So most of the books that she likes are like, while they probably would be great for my brain, my intelligence, my IQ, I can't do it. I can't do it. And so I feel like she always recommends me these books, and she's so sweet, and I love talking about books with her. But I feel bad because I never read anything she recommends. So this one she recommended, and it was on my TBR. Like, I already wanted to read this, and so I went and bought, like, I think I bought it on Amazon that night after she brought it up. And this was so good. This was so good. Basically, I didn't realize this at first, and I don't think, let me check. I did not realize that she was trying to unalive herself when I bought the book. And then I think I maybe saw a review right before I started reading it, and I was like, oh. So I was nervous it was gonna make me like sad or put me in a bad headspace, but it was really good. The only reason I still have the bookmark in it is because at 82 pages, I decided I need to annotate this. Like, there are so many quote-worthy and like thought-provoking lines in this that I like grabbed a pen and I started underlining. But I want to go back and reread these 82 pages and like also annotate that and make sure that like everything that I want underlined is underlined, because this is my book. This was so good. This is like a must read in my opinion. Probably top 3 that I read this year, I would say. Yeah, it was really, really good. So basically she wants to end it all, and she kind of gets stuck in this like in-between place called the Midnight Library, where she gets to try on different lives and different decisions. And it talks a lot about regret, and it talks a lot about like, what is our purpose here, and would things be different if we'd done things differently. It talks indirectly a lot about like basically happiness as a choice. Like, you can choose to be happy in any life or situation you could have been in, or you can choose to be miserable even if maybe other like paths that you could have taken you would have actually liked less. Hopefully I'm saying this right or well. But I loved it. It was super thought-provoking. As someone who was a really, really angsty teen, I wish I would have found this when I was a bit younger, because I loved it. There's no spice. It's just like a literary fiction. It was so good. Highly recommend. My final rating on that was that's the only thing about Bookmory. It only lets you rate in 0.5s, like in half stars, but I'm pretty sure I rated it a 4.75. Yes, I rated it 4.75. I think maybe when I go back and I like redo the 82 pages that I still want to annotate, I may bump it up to a 5-star. Because like I said, I have more than 3 5-star reads, but this would be one of my top 3 of the year. And this would be like something I would recommend to everyone, like all ages. I think this is universally applicable. Next was The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer. So in October, I read Behind the Net, which also by her. It's the Vancouver Storm series, so it's a hockey romance, interconnected standalone. I'm a sucker for a sports romance interconnected standalone, like absolute sucker. And Behind the Net, I didn't like. I can't remember what I rated that, but rated that like 3 stars. We just talked about how I'm a pretty lenient rater, and I rated that 3 stars. So like, I really didn't like it. A week after I read it, I couldn't remember much about it. So I don't really know what even possessed me to continue with the second book. I think I had seen people online basically saying the second book was the best, and some people even going so far to be like, this is my favorite book. And I'm like, Jesus, it's your favorite book? That's traumatic. That's like saying like Icebreaker is my favorite book, when like Icebreaker was good. I liked it. I would read it again. It's not my favorite book. You know what I mean? This was so good. It was so, so good. I literally put in my notes, I put kicking my feet, giggling, falling in love with the characters' goodness with like hard eyes. So it's about Hazel and Rory. And Rory just transferred to this team, or like just got a trade to this team. And he used to be best friends with the goalie, who is the main male character, or the main male lead, whatever, and behind the net. Hazel is a physiotherapist for the team, and they're there. He's had a crush on her forever. I think they went to high school together, and then her ex-boyfriend gets a trade to the team, and she's assigned to be his physiotherapist. And I don't remember the details of like that relationship. I just remember that he was like real crappy to her, like throughout their relationship, and kind of like belittled her and made her feel like she was like wasn't worth, you know what I mean, his time. And so he basically was just like taunting her, and so it's a fake dating. So she, to get out of like his taunting and his like annoyingness, she's like, oh, I have a boyfriend, and it's Rory. And he's like, you have a boyfriend and it's me? And it's just so cute. And Rory he's like cocky, like player, and he's like a reform player for her, and it's just, it's so good. It's so good. And Stephanie Archer, one thing she does really well is the banter in her books is so good. I will say that from the first book, from Behind the Net, the banter was so good. Like little bits and pieces I remember of it, banter so good. Character is just kind of, to me. I also don't love a super like grumpy grump male character, which that's what you get in the first book. This one is not that. He's swaggy, he's got confidence, and he's obsessed with her. He is obsessed with Hazel, and Hazel just has to like see it. It was so good. It was such a good little happy ending. Hazel is also Pippa's sister from the first book, so it's like very found family. It's very interconnected. There's this like bar that they go to, and that like the team goes to, and you get to know all the supporting like teammates, and it's so good. Did not know I was gonna be such a stan for this book. This one I think was also a 4.75 for me. Oh, 4.25. I should really adjust these ratings before I start the video next time, because I don't agree with myself. I don't agree with myself. I think I'm silly and I don't know what I'm talking about. Don't trust me. Next I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which, cute, cozy, fall romance. It's spicy, and it is very spicy for the sake of being spicy. If you have not already heard of this book, there's the Pumpkin Spice Bookstore, the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and then the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, and then now there's the Christmas Tree Farm, I think. And then there's also gonna be like a Strawberry Patch Pancake House coming out in the spring. They're so cheesy. They're very cheesy. There's not a lot of substance to them, even though like the characters obviously have issues going on in their own life and their own hang-ups and stuff. It's just very, like, it takes no brain power to read. It's very predictable. It does give you, like, good seasonal vibe. The cover of this is so fall, and, like, it has, like, the fall leaves and pumpkins, and does it have pumpkins? No pumpkins, but it has the fall leaves. And it has like, you know what I mean, like fall garland on the windowsills. It looks like fall. The whole book's in summer. It's literally about her having like the last summer of her 20s, I think, before she turns 30, and like being crazy and reckless because she'd always been like very straight-laced. And she does talk about how like she loves autumn and like it's turning into autumn and that's her favorite season. But I read it in November. I wanted a fall book. And it was fine. It was fine. I don't remember the main character's name. Either of them. It was fine. If you want something cozy that's really easy, you want a really, really easy palette cleanser, go for it. But this is not like a must read. They're so hyped up on TikTok, and just like, it's not a must read. You do not have to read it. Also, these are not on Kindle Unlimited. Like, I paid for these copies. Granted, I read it on like my Kindle app, but I paid for the Kindle version. of this and the Pumpkin Spice Bookstore. I think I'm good. I don't think I want to read the third one unless somebody on the internet, because it takes one single review for me to be swayed. But unless someone on the internet is like, ah, oh, this was so good and it's so much better than the first two, I don't really have much interest. I rated it a 3, just a flat 3. I think I could rate it lower. Like I said, I did have a talk with myself. Next, okay, so the next one is a novella. And I've been looking at the main book. The main book is Pucking Around. And I've been looking at it because it's a Why Choose Romance. I've never read that. I'm like, I don't know if I would like it. You know what I mean? And then I found out there's a novella. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to read the novella and I'm going to see what I think. And the novella was cute. It was very love bomby. It was very like insta love, but like there was such good like sexual tension and chemistry, and I liked it. I liked the two characters together. So then part of me is like, I don't know if, like, it made me more confused on if I want to read the main book because I like them together. I don't know that I want to see them, you know, sharing each other. Like, I liked the possessiveness and the like instant draw they had to each other. But it's called That One Night, and it is about this girl, and she is like, I don't know if she just got dumped or what, but this girl and this guy, and the guy's a hockey player, and they meet at this hotel bar and they have a one night like fling together, and then she leaves in the morning. They don't exchange names or numbers or anything, and they both were like obsessed with each other. They were like, no, this is the one, like, she's perfect, he's perfect, and then left. So on that premise, I want to know what happens. But I also just don't know if I'm down for the like the why choose when I already like them together. Does that make sense? I think I could read a why choose where I go into it and like don't really know anything, and I can just enjoy like seeing our main characters all like intermingle and get to know each other and like the nuances of each relationship. But I already like them together. So I rated this a 3.75. All right, and that was my last palate cleanser before I dove back in to Throne of Glass. Just warning, really controversial opinion. We've not liked it. Up until probably book 5, which I can't even remember, Crown of Midnight, I think. Queen of Shadows. Which one's which? All the titles are the same in my head. Air of Fire. I should just look. This is embarrassing. Okay, final answer. Queen of Shadows. I started to like it in Air of Fire, but you still get like no payoff. No payoff, I didn't feel. And then Queen of Shadows, by the end I was like, okay, all right, there's characters I like now. I'm ready to continue. But at the same time, like the last 3 books combined are over 2,000 pages. So we took a break. I think we read those in August, and then we took September and October off from Throne of Glass. And my goal was to finish the rest of Throne of Glass, so the last 3 books, Empire Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash, in November. And I did it. Spoiler alert, I did it. I'm so happy it's over. And it is not going to be one of my Holy Grail. Yeah, one of my Holy Grail series books. I don't think. I know everybody else loves it so much. And I will probably make a whole video just about like Throne of Glass and my thoughts on it. Because, I mean, obviously like the statistics, you know what I mean, prove that it's a well-loved book. Like, it's very well loved. So many people adore it, have special edition copies, like are obsessed with the characters, have merch for it, like. And I don't know why it didn't sit that way with me, but it didn't. And I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to tarnish Sarah J. Maas by not liking it. Like, my one little opinion is not going to, like, be the end of Throne of Glass. But I do think I will make a video on it and just talk about my thoughts. Maybe go through, like, my thoughts on each book and why I didn't love it. However, sorry, very long-winded. I did do the tandem read. So I read Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn at the same time. I can pop up the little tandem read sheet that I used if you're interested or you're about to go into the tandem read or contemplating it. I did the tandem read solely on like the Kindle app, so I did not have the physical books, and I think that is 1,000% the way to go. So it was so easy to switch between, and then like having that picture on my phone too, which granted I wouldn't have had that if I was on the like a Kindle, but having that picture on my phone that I could just reference and then like, okay, I go to this chapter, okay, I go back to this book, was so easy. So easy. It was so enjoyable. Like, I loved the tandem read, to be honest. And I actually was like into the book by this point. By this point, we have characters that I really love, that I'm really invested in, that like I want to see how things turn out. So Empire Storms, for me, I can't really say anything about the books without like, you know what I mean? The whole series is about an assassin. Maybe I'll go a little more in depth in my Throne of Glass video, but Empire Storms for me was a 4.5. It was so good. It definitely is more action-packed than Tower of Dawn, but reading them as a tandem read, Tower of Dawn is much more like emotional and vulnerable, and I don't know if I would even say slow-paced, but it's just like, it's just more. You also too are in like a new world, like a new area of their world in Tower of Dawn that you haven't been to yet, so you're getting a lot more like world building and more backstory about like the royal family that's like happening there. Whereas Empire of Storms, like you're kind of just picking up where you left off because you already know all these people, you know where you're at, you have a general understanding of, you know what I mean, like the setting. So Empire of Storms was definitely more action-packed, but Tower of Dawn, baby, Tower of Dawn. It all is based around Kale, which he's one of our characters. He's the King's Guard, or like second hand of the king or something. I don't know his actual title. But you meet him in the first book, so no spoilers there. But this book is all about Kale, and I hope I'm saying it right, but this is how I've been saying it for 8 books, so it's stuck at this point if it's wrong. And this whole book's about him, and him just kind of like finding himself and figuring things out within himself and really growing. And I am a Kale stan. Okay, a lot of people love Dorian, the Prince of Adarlan, and he's fine. He's fine. I liked him by the end for sure, but like Kale, I've loved since the first book. I've loved his like brooding demeanor. I've loved that like he's very human. Like he just doesn't get or understand a lot of what's going on, and it takes him a while to like come to terms with things. And I think that is reasonable. Everybody else just blindly being like, is crazy to me, because I also am like, I also don't get it. He questions our main character Selena like a lot throughout this whole series, and I appreciate that about him because I also questioned her a lot. So Tower of Dawn for me was a 5-star, absolute 5-star. Loved it. And then I read Kingdom of Ash, which is the last and final book in the 980-page book. And it was scary. It was so much. There's so much violence in this final book. And like I wanted to finish because I wanted to finish in November and I wanted to just knock it all out. But it was hard to get through simply because there's so much in it that it's just like hard to stomach. Like there's war, there's torture, there's violence, there's death, and it's just a lot to stomach. And it really even at like 60-70% of the book, it just feels hopeless. Like, this cannot end well. And I'm just like, you're just like sitting there like on the edge of your seat, but like filled with dread. That's how I felt reading it. So therefore, like, obviously great job to Sarah J. Maas for being able to evoke those feelings. But I wouldn't say that was enjoyable. So Kingdom of Ash for me was a 4.5 star, because everything gets tied up, you know what I mean? Like you end and you find out where everybody went, all the side characters and what everybody's like future journeys are. Had to be done with the series. I would say the whole series is probably like a 4-star series for me. It just took, I don't think it should take 2,000 pages to get invested in a series, and it did. So that's why. but yeah, that's my November wrap up. Thank you so much for hanging out if you're still here. Because I know I am a certified yapper. So, 9 books. And soon I will film my Throne of Glass video with all of like my detailed thoughts, as well as I'll probably do a short December TBR video. I already have my TBR picked out. And then going into the new year, I do plan to do some kind of TBR jar or like prompt situation. But thank you so much. I'll see you guys later.